Hello everybody, my name is Andrew Weeb and welcome back to the Prairie Podcast. If you are a parent of a student, a faculty, staff, a student yourself, or an alum, I feel like I haven't mentioned the alumni in a while and I'm terribly sorry about that. So alumni, you are just as welcome to be here. In fact, today we have an alumnus on the podcast and it's quite exciting. Zac, why don't you introduce yourself a little bit about who you are and we'll go on from there, see what we can learn about you.
Sure. My name's Zac Parkinson. I've been a student at Prairie. I studied here for 4 years doing some of our youth ministry program and some of our songwriting and recording program. So I have a diploma in each of those areas. And then after a couple of years away, I came back on staff at Prairie in the admissions department. And so since then, I've been just working and, working with students as they get ready to come to school and trying to find ways to get more people in through our doors too.
Oh, certainly. And it's real exciting to have you on campus. Did you transition right out of graduating to coming on staff or was there something in between?
No, I moved to the city of Calgary for a couple of years first.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, certainly. Well, it's a pleasure to have you on the team with us, Zac, and it's exciting to have you on the podcast. So I'm curious, looking back at your time as a student, we'll go there first, and then maybe we'll get to you being on a staff here. So as a student, working your way through the years, what would you say were some of the things that Prairie did to set you up? Was there certain stories, certain encounters, certain lessons you had that...
Yeah, I think for me, it's not like I'm going to be doing music for probably the rest of my life. And so learning stuff in the songwriting program has set me up well in terms of life skills. Yeah. Is it my career that I'm doing right now? Obviously not. But I still do music stuff today. And so I think I got lots of different life skills in music and in learning about the Bible, how to have discussions with other people about topics that we might disagree on. That's something I think that we really learn at Prairie. One of the things I learned in the music program at Prairie is just about the difference between sacred and secular music. So I think, I've met lots of Christians who feel like, their playlist needs to be full of the kind of contemporary Christian music, the Christian kind of pop radio stuff and worship music. Yep. But then they're like, I can't listen to rock, or I can't listen to whatever's playing on regular pop radio. And I think one of my professors in my time here challenged that notion a little bit and kind of just talked about God created music and gave us the ability to do it. And so it is kind of a sacred thing already. Yep. So to make it not sacred, it doesn't mean just if it's not about Jesus explicitly or something like that. A love song can still be sacred. It's when you take the sacredness out of the music, you desecrate the music. Yep. That's when it becomes not sacred anymore. But it's not when it becomes secular.
So in some sense, music is a gift from God and something that is inherently almost in every human being actually around the world, that's actually a gift from God, that just making music, even though it doesn't explicitly say Jesus, is still sacred in its nature.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, certainly. So I know music is a huge thing for you. You love music. You actually work with and kind of orchestrate the music team for our takeover teams, correct? Yep. So I'm curious, where are you at in your music right now? What are you doing? What genres maybe you put out there? Tell us a bit about, I think viewers will be listening. I'm fascinated to hear, where are you at with your music? What are you doing with that?
Yeah, maybe I'll start from the background and then move into where I'm at now. So when I came to Prairie, I had written songs when I was a kid, but they weren't great. And so when I joined the songwriting and recording program here, I wanted to learn lots more about it, and I really felt like that's where I was supposed to be. Yep. And so that learning kind of got me to the end of my program where I recorded 5 songs, as is normal for all of our students in that program. And in that project, it was kind of a little all over the place. I was just pulling from the best songs that I had made over the course of 2 years or so, maybe 3. And So it meant that it was kind of a bit of a mishmash of things. I think there were some lyrical themes, like a lot of talking about heartbreak, as is usual when you're that age. And there's a lot of electronic elements that's pretty normal in my music. Definitely a pop songwriting style. That's kind of what I do most of the time. And I've stuck to that since then, but I would say I worked on my own EP of 4 songs and produced it myself.
Yep.
I had some input and like questions I was asking of some friends of mine, but it was mostly on my own. I had to hire out for a drummer for one song, that sort of thing.
Okay.
But and when I was working on that, I feel like it felt much more cohesive. From if you listen to each track, it's like, okay, these feel like they kind of fit together.
They'll fit together,
and at least on my first EP, there was at least one song that is like all like vintage R&B instruments, and then everything else is like synths and like.
Sounds very stark.
Yeah, it's very contrasting. It's not to say that I'll never make a song like that. I'm not. I try to. There's a saying, I guess, that the song is king. So. Well, Jesus is king, but the song is king in the sense that you want all the elements of your song to come together to kind of have one message.
Yep.
And so if the genre that I normally release is not what fits the song, then I'm going to make the song in the way that it needs to be. Yep. I'm not going to try and force it into a certain mold that I have. But that means that I have a bank of songs that are good songs that I'd like to release, but don't really fit what I'm doing right now. So I think in the future, I'll probably do some like singer-songwriter project that can fit all of those songs into it too. So for right now, I'm kind of just trying to wrap up, I guess, trying to get ready for that singer-songwriter chapter of music stuff, and that kind of sound, and trying to wrap up the last couple tracks that I have that are kind of more in the electronic alternative pop kind of space. So
Well, thanks for sharing. And can people where can people find your music?
So my name's Zac Parkinson. You can find me on Apple Music, Spotify, or wherever else you listen to your music. If you're watching this podcast on YouTube, it's on YouTube as well.
There you go.
So it's pretty easy to find. Just make sure you spell my name Z-A-C. There's no H, no K.
There you go.
And sometimes people mess that up. So.
Hey, perfectly. And it's really cool to see how the practical skills that you learned that were kind of set up. I mean, you had them beforehand, and then coming through the program kind of enhanced that and launched off, and that you've still continued to enjoy that and do that.
Yeah.
I'm curious, in a different way, were there maybe some, I don't know how else to say, but like maybe character lessons or people skills? Was there maybe more personal lessons that you were growing, or maybe ways that God was growing you through your time at Prairie as well? So you got the practical skills out of it, but and you got the understanding of the sacred and secular, but maybe was there some personal things that God was teaching you during that time?
Absolutely. Yeah. I would say that there's a number of different things. I guess to speak to at least one of them would be just interacting with people and making sure I got lots of skills of like praying with people and stuff. I was part of the school student union.
Okay, really? What position? If
I did. I was the spiritual life commissioner in my second year, and then I did activities in my third year. So I went from planning worship nights and praying with people to then making sure that we had rented enough like bouncy castles and stuff for the year-end party and making sure the Christmas banquet ran smoothly. But I enjoyed doing both. Especially my time doing spiritual life. I was still only in my second year at Prairie. I was still figuring lots of things out as a young adult. One thing that I really put forward when I was doing that role was I kind of felt like sometimes I would interact with students who felt like they were kind of not necessarily slipping through the cracks, but they maybe didn't feel comfortable going to their small group leader or going to certain other people. And so I was just trying to be like, okay, when I'm a very approachable person usually. So I was like, if I'm talking to you and I can tell that you're kind of struggling to share this with other people, then maybe you can talk to me about it. And so I was kind of like the fail-safe plan for people to fall into when they were just, struggling with mental health or just whatever's going on in their lives. And so it gave me lots of opportunities to learn more about people and to pray with them. And I think that I've continued to carry forward in my life. And organizational skills, I learned that from being on the student union as well. And that definitely served me well in the administrative stuff that I do today.
Yeah,
So.
Certainly. And I'm curious, I think you're mentioning some of those things are carrying on. I would be curious to learn, and it's something we always love to learn from the people on the podcast, is what ways is God teaching you now? So, back then he was kind of guiding you into these positions, teaching you about prayer, interpersonal relationship, organizational skills, and learning how to be a servant for people, how to care for people.
Yeah.
I'm curious, what are some ways that God is teaching you today?
Yeah, I think for me today, it's really about challenging myself and being confident in what I am capable of. Today, I'm doing a lot of things, especially like right now. Right now, I am learning a course, so I'm doing a lot of studying, and I'm also teaching a course at Prairie. It's only one credit, but that still takes up some of my time. Plus, I'm doing my regular admissions / traveling worship team role. So, yeah, I'm pretty busy. And there's a lot of moments in there where I was like, oh man, I don't know. It feels like I'm going to drop one of these things. Like I can't keep juggling all of this. But I think through that, God's taught me that he's been faithful in that. And also that I am capable of more than what I think of when I'm just worrying about the future.
Hey, certainly. And thank you for sharing that. I think it's... all of us at some point need to come to realize, okay, God's given us skills and abilities, and he will carry us forward to complete that, to have confidence in what you're doing and to do it. And we appreciate and we thank you for your work, for what you do, Zac. There's a lot of pieces going on.
Yeah. Oh, it's good though.
I certainly. Okay, so that's kind of, we talked about a bit of you being as a student, where God is leading you right now, how he is kind of teaching you and encouraging you in that. I'm curious, could you briefly describe for us, what is your position here? What's your main job? What are you doing?
Sure, yeah. So a lot of my work is just emailing people who have started an application but have yet to complete it, or they've maybe completed it, gotten accepted, but they still have a couple post-acceptance things left to do. So it's a lot of just reminding these applicants what their next steps are.
Okay.
That's a large majority of my role. There's lots of other little administrative tasks that admissions counselors get up to, answering the phone, answering questions, that sort of thing. In addition, I'm also doing some work with our traveling worship teams. So I just organize the music side of it. So all the students that we're sending out that are musicians to play worship at churches on a Sunday morning within like a 3 to 4 hour kind of driving distance. I'm basically just in charge of making sure that part runs smoothly, making sure that we have 3 different worship teams right now. So I assign them to different dates that they're going to go to once I see those dates get booked, and make sure that they are aware of what they need to do, aware of, am I staying in a hotel? Are we just driving there and driving right back? That sort of thing.
Okay, certainly. Okay, and in your position as an admissions counselor and with your own understanding of the music program or songwriting program in particular, what would you say to someone interested in the songwriting program? What would be maybe a piece of advice or an encouragement you'd have for them, or something to think about?
Sure. I think if you're a musician and you're looking at post-secondary options, there's lots of options out there. And it can vary very greatly in terms of price and the ability level you need to have to get started. And I think one of Prairie's strengths is that you don't have to have a super high, there's not a super high bar of entry, I guess, in terms of our music programs. We have a 1-year musicianship program for people that are just wanting to dip their toes in. And I've even seen some students who, we had one student a couple years ago who was a drummer primarily.
Yep.
And he didn't really sing, didn't really play any other instruments, but he really wanted to write songs. And it's really hard to write songs if you don't sing and you only play the drums.
Yeah.
So he did the musicianship program, learned how to play basic level piano, learned how to sing, and then he did the 2-year songwriting program after that and was very successful in it.
Yep.
So that's absolutely something people could do if that's something they're interested in. And even, there's a little bit of a higher bar of entry just into the songwriting program, but it's like, have you written songs before? Do you kind of know something? If somebody came to us and was like, I don't sing and I don't play an instrument, then we might say, you should do the musicianship program first.
Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, that's kind of the track to get there. And I think that's one of the huge things. Lots of music academia has like, you need to have this much experience or this, sort of thing. Like I did lots of classical piano training when I was a kid.
Yeah.
And I think I would still need more if I was to try and get into a
certain level.
Like, a certain schools out there. So coming to Prairie, you don't really need that. Okay. And we're going to start you off with like the basic music theory and take you to advanced college level music theory very quickly. But we start from those fundamentals. So if you didn't do any of that before, it's not like you're coming in and you don't know what's going on.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, that's very good. Very good. Thank you for sharing that. And that's very helpful knowledge to have. Another area I want to ask you about in more of a general sense is the whole application process. Where do you see a lot of students where's the stumbling point oftentimes, or what's an area that tends to catch a lot of people, and how would you advise people to work through that? Or is there usually a struggle point? And what advice would you have for that? What encouragement would you have for that?
One thing that's still kind of unique to Prairie's application process is that we can process applications for acceptance very quickly. So students who are applying, they just need to get us the information that we need, and then we can process it quickly. I think sometimes it feels like it takes forever, but usually that means that, I'm still waiting on a transcript, or I'm still waiting on your reference to fill out the reference form. It's not always even in the applicant's control, like with the reference form. But once those things get done, then we can process the application in a short amount of time. So I think lots of people get hung up on that step. I think that there's a lot of other people that even once they are accepted, they're still weighing their options. And I personally believe that Prairie's biblical focus and foundation that we have, and the small kind of community that we're in with similar values, and the ability to still have like open discourse about maybe the things we do disagree on. I think that is something that's very special, and I think until students visit the campus, they maybe don't see that. And so sometimes there's people who maybe get accepted and then they don't see that and they don't see the value there. So my encouragement is, as much as you possibly can, even if you're looking at lots of different schools, do your best to visit them, because that will give you a feeling. It doesn't give you everything about the school, obviously, but it gives you more than a picture and more than some text on a web page.
Visiting, you can feel the culture.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, it's certainly. And thanks for sharing that, and thank you for kind of just sharing a bit about what you're doing for your work. I've got one final question for you, and I'm not sure if you're actually the perfect person to ask about this, but I'm going to ask you because I've got you on the podcast. What do you know about the National Songwriting Competition? Are you the right person to ask about that?
I am, actually.
Okay, perfect. So would you mind explaining a bit about that?
So this year we decided to try doing a songwriting competition. Basically, it's an opportunity to win some cash prizes, to get the opportunity to play at the EP showcase. I believe whoever wins the grand prize is going to get to do that. And so we have this big EP showcase for all of our songwriting students when they graduate. So they get to present some of the songs that they've recorded, play them all live, put on a really lovely, probably like hour and a half to 2 hour show.
Yep.
All together, it's really awesome. If you're considering you're around Three Hills area and you can come and see it, it'll be near the end of April probably. So keep an eye out for that on our website because it's a really cool thing to come to.
Okay.
And so the winner of this national songwriting competition would get to perform there. So, I mean, it's a cool opportunity to get your music heard by like an audience of at least, a couple hundred people.
Yep.
It's also a good opportunity to, win a cash prize, maybe win some additional, I think there might even be some recording packages in there too. So if you want to go get some of your music professionally recorded, I believe that's on there as well. So, yeah.
Okay, very cool. Thanks for sharing some of that information there. And I just want to say thank you so much for joining us on the podcast today. I think we've heard some very fascinating things about the way that God has prepared you through Prairie and your practical skills, your people skills, your organizational skills, and now in your position, you're putting all three of them into action. And I think that's really wonderful to see, and I appreciate you coming on and joining us. You have any final words for our listeners?
Just thanks for having me. It was great to be here. And I mean, if you do want to check out my music, it's not for everyone. I would appreciate whatever streams that you give me or whatever.
Hey, certainly we want to support our alumni, so feel free to check out Zac Parkinson on all of the music platforms there. Just a couple notes for all of you out there. If you want to learn more about Prairie, about our programs such as the musicianship program or songwriting or any of them, you can check out our website, which is www.prairie.edu. If you know someone that you would love to have on the podcast, whether an alum or a student or a staff or faculty, you can contact us at marketing@prairie.edu or alumni@prairie.edu. Couple things you should keep in mind: the showcasing, which where all of our songwriting students showcase their EPs, will be happening later this year. So make sure you pay attention for when that's coming out. We'd love to have you join and listen. Second thing, GCC Global Connections Conference. There will be more information going out about the conference. It will be happening March 18th and 19th. If you'd love to come out and listen to our speaker, we have 4 plenary sessions, and there will be a lot of organizations present. We'd encourage you to check that out. Community members and alumni are welcome to visit. And once again, there will be more information coming out in the following weeks. So thank you so much for joining us. Thank you, Zac. This has been a pleasure.
Great to be here.
And everyone, have a great day. Thank you.